And it's you need to understand, you need to listen to the verbiage here in the statement, because it's the exact same thing that they understand with the commodity markets. And this is why we're seeing so many deliveries. Like, and I'll answer this question in a moment, but just like we're seeing all of the gold heading to Hong Kong. Remember, the CME Group created a contract in 2015 that allows for exchange for physical to be delivered to Brics Hong Kong, which is a COMEX vault. And they only keep taking kilo gold bars. Ironically, no, it's not, because the Shanghai Gold Exchange trades in kilo bars. The COMEX trades in 100-ounce bars, although their mini contract is kilo bars. So when you see, 500 plus million in gold delivered to Brics Hong Kong in an exchange for physical, that's being trucked over to the Shanghai Gold Exchange. They are using the suppression of the Western market against us and standing for delivery. We just saw the other day another huge delivery coming out of the June contract for gold. It was 30,000 gold contracts were delivered off of COMEX in the June contract, 30,000 times 100 ounces. We continue to see drawdowns in the exchanges because the world understands this is how they win the game. The countries that are standing for delivery now never did. It is the standing for delivery, the coordination, sophistication, wealth, being cunning enough and understanding enough to understand this is how you beat the West, by standing for delivery in these exchanges.
In a stunning move, over 30,000 gold contracts worth billions were delivered off the COMEX in June alone, with more than $500 million in gold flowing into Hong Kong. This is a clear indication that countries around the globe are strategically standing for delivery, cleverly exploiting Western market suppression to their advantage. The BRICS nations are not sitting idle. They are forging their own commodity exchanges and abandoning the US dollar in favor of their own currencies. This bold and coordinated effort is not just depleting Western exchanges, but also stockpiling precious metals and seizing control of the world's most valuable commodities. China, for instance, now owns the London Metals Exchange and is rapidly building warehouses on its own soil. India has made a dramatic leap by increasing its silver imports from the UAE by an astonishing 654 times year over year. But that's not all. The BRICS countries, now the world's largest grain producers, are working to shift the global grain market away from the US dollar. This monumental financial power shift is happening right now, posing a direct challenge to the stability of the US economy. The stage is set for a new era in global trade and finance, and the world is watching as these nations reshape the economic landscape.
Well, the same thing would be true in respect with the BRICS Grain Exchange. And I'm going to read something to you here so people understand, they get what's happening, and they're using this leverage against us. They say the BRICS Grain Exchange is likely to change the face of the world grain market tremendously. And this is according to the Russian officials. The existing global grain market infrastructure was formed following the Second World War, when U.S. wheat and corn exports dominated the market, the ministry said. Although U.S. exports no longer play the role they used to, global prices are primarily determined by the Chicago Commodity Exchange. Moscow seeks to move away from trading grain for U.S. dollars in favor of the national currencies of the BRICS member states. The ministry insists that the BRICS countries are the largest grain producers and exporters, but have no leverage to influence the price of the agricultural commodities critical for their food security. The BRICS Commodity Exchange will solve this problem. But this is the point here. The same thing will be true. Look, they now have a commodity exchange, which would be for things like corn and soybean and wheat. Well, what's Brazil doing right now? They're the second largest exporter of corn in the world. They're selling corn and soybeans to China for yuan over the project M-Bridge, sidestepping SWIFT, and probably sending that yuan back and converting it into gold on the Shanghai Gold Exchange. Probably those same kilo bars that came off the COMEX. So they're doing that. But what did China do? They bought the LME, the London Metals Exchange, the base metals, right? We've talked about how all of the countries joining the BRICS or the Shanghai Cooperation Organization or the Belt Road Initiative are massively rich in commodities, right? So they're buying the LME, which is base metals. They're draining the exchange in precious metals. And by the way, the LME, which the Chinese own, even though the exchange is in the UK, they're now building warehouses in China to warehouse the metals that are traded on the LME in China. So they're knee deep in base metals, copper, zinc, all that kind of stuff. They are building a grain exchange. There was a report that JP Morgan just came out with, said that they produce 70 to 80% of all the rare earth metals, but they refine 100% of all the rare earth metals. So you got that base covered. They came out and said that this new BRICS endeavor those countries that will be admitted in October will be very strategic in terms of their shipping lanes and their trade routes on top of their natural resources. Do you see how all of these ducks are being, put in a row, one after the other after the other? And what did Zoltan Pozar say? Oh, that's right. Bretton Woods 3 is all about commodities. They have now the soft commodities, the hard commodities, the precious metals, the rare earths, the shipping lanes, the trade routes, the military might, GDP. These idiots who continue to poo-poo this as a nothing burger, and now they have the damn trade vehicle, including a common settlement currency and a platform to sidestep SWIFT. But you're right. Recency bias should prevail. The BRICS is nothing. Just keep on walking and don't look here. Look at NVIDIA and Bitcoin and Apple, these shiny objects, and ignore what the majority of human population is doing. They are setting the stage for that all at once moment. And it's never been more clear to me. Yet the fact that this media over here does nothing to talk about what should be the most important story of the world, so many people have no idea what's come and done again. And yes, I continue to harp on the same story, but you can see it's coming together now. It is truly coming together.
He mentioned that back in 2020, Nancy Pelosi talked about the virus potentially living on currency and suggested a future with digital currency. According to Andy, all the signs were there, and now it's clear we're heading towards a digital currency, whether here or elsewhere. He pointed out that the BRICS nations have openly stated their plans to peg their currencies to gold, with commodities taking the lead, effectively replacing the demand for US treasuries. Andy believes the rising rates, as seen with the 10-year treasury, will continue to climb, debunking any hopes for a drop. He thinks countries are shifting away from bonds and are instead loading up on gold, rare earths, base metals, and soft commodities, ushering in what he calls Bretton Woods 3. Andy emphasized that if people don't see these pieces falling into place, they're missing out on the bigger picture. He respects the dollar bulls and proponents of the milkshake theory, but he believes we're approaching a critical moment. Missing this shift would mean missing out on a once-in-a-generation change from the old normal to a new one. One hot topic Andy brought up is the rumor that China has stopped buying gold. He finds this notion ridiculous. Throughout his career, he's heard that China's reported gold stockpile numbers are misleading because they've been stuck at 1 in 200 metric tons for ages. Yet, China mines between 400 and 500 metric tons every year, the most in the world. Andy believes China has been quietly accumulating gold through state-owned banks like ICQ, which act as proxies for the PBOC, without reporting it. He mentioned that any gold under 999.5 purity isn't reported, similar to how the US hasn't updated its gold numbers since 1953. China wouldn't reveal their gold purchases. Instead, they'd claim to have stopped buying to manipulate the price lower, then buy more at the reduced rates. Andy also highlighted India's massive silver imports from the West, totaling 600 to 700 million ounces over the past 2.5 years. Recently, India imported silver from the UAE, and from January to April 2023, they imported $2.2 million worth of silver. Shockingly, in the same period in 2024, this surged to $1.44 billion, a 654-fold increase year over year. These points from Andy Schectman illustrate the significant global shifts happening right now, with countries moving away from traditional economic norms and reshaping the financial landscape.
Okay, fine. Well, what I would also say is everyone focuses on the imports of silver that India has been doing from the West, and it's massive, between 600 and 700 million ounces over the last 2.5 years from the West, right? Yeah, huge, because it's 10 times the amount of silver in the registered category. We're supposed to be told that there's 800 million ounces on the LBMA, of which only 300 million is unencumbered, 500 plus belongs to the ETFs. That's also the platform, as we've talked about, that trades 2.9 billion ounces per day, 10 times the 292 million that they post. They admit those numbers are 10 times understated. You're talking 3.5 times annual global mine supply traded per day on these Western exchanges, which gives all of these countries, what did I say they're doing? There are people who tell you they mine between 400 and 500 metric tons per year, every year. They're the largest producer in the world and have been mining uneconomical gold forever, right? And so just that alone is massively significant. But they have entities in China that, you know, that they're not, these are banks that are not reporting to the IMF their gold holdings, like ICBC as a proxy for which is a state-owned bank, as a proxy for the PBOC, which is accumulating gold hand over fist, dealing with the refineries in South Africa and Switzerland, not reporting it. If gold that they accumulate is under 9995 pure, they don't report it. Just like we haven't updated our numbers since 1953, they're not going to update their numbers. But it would certainly behoove them to maximize the amount of gold they get before it gets revalued, like we talked about earlier. Remember, revalued. So they're not going to tell the world, yeah, we're buying it hand over fist. In fact, let's just tell them we're not buying it. And you guys, our state-owned banks, quietly, shh, go start buying it. We're going to tell them that we stop for a month. The prices will fall because the Western media, a bunch of idiots, and the price will fall, and we can buy some more cheap and start getting more cheap on behalf of the idiots in the West who dropped the price.